Now, we've all just been here in the studio watching this extraordinary interview with 17-year-old Jake Daniels of Blackpool, who's the first male footballer to come out publicly as gay in this country since Justin Fashanu back in 1990. Gary, what did you make of it?
I think the first thing to say is when I always think of football players being independent thinking and being able to articulate their message and speak, let alone the circumstances that Jake's having to speak in tonight. But I was incredibly proud just to see a 17-year-old be able to actually do an interview with that level of quality. There are players, probably I wouldn't have been able to do an interview or ourselves like that, probably our mid-20s, late 20s. What he's just done tonight takes incredible courage. We've both lived in a dressing room for many, many years, and that would seem like the unthinkable, to basically announce that you are gay into a changing room. I can imagine how difficult that has been. I can't imagine how difficult that's been, really. So all I would say is that it's a day of great importance for, obviously, Jake and his family, but also, I think, for English football, and it'll go down in history. It's a big, big moment for football players. It's massive importance, this.
What about the role that Blackpool have played in this as well, Jamie?
Well, I know the manager there, Neil Critchley, obviously had a relationship with him at Liverpool, and I think it's really important that, obviously, if there's other players in the future, the role of the football club and, how Blackpool have gone about it. And certainly Neil Critchley in that role, he'll be a huge support mechanism for Jake, and that's what he will need going forward because, he's going to be playing, looks like he's got, real talent going forward as a player. We hope he does really well. And the way he spoke, you can only reiterate what Gary's just mentioned before about the actual courage to do that. But I just think it's not just about Jake. It is about the football club as well, their role within it. And I think that's probably an example going forward for other clubs if there's other players to come out in the future. He
seemed remarkably together, didn't he, for a 17-year-old? So mature. You can't imagine being in that situation yourself, age 17, and being able to speak so eloquently about such a huge topic. And it's interesting hearing him, Gary, talking about as well that he hopes he can be an inspiration for others.
Absolutely. I think that, I was on the PFA management committee probably 15, 20 years ago now, whereby this was, a major talking point, a major issue that was discussed at sort of management committee meetings about the fact that basically we didn't have a player comfortable enough to be able to, come out and say that they were gay. And it was something that, how do we deal with this? How do we address this issue? The game's not dealt with this issue well at all. I think it's just about getting good at dealing with the issue from a fan's perspective. Obviously, we met the LGBTQ community at Southampton earlier on in the year, didn't we? That sort of, if you like, are doing great work. And we know that now it's sort of, if you like, something that's really acceptable from a fan point of view, but it's not yet got into the dressing room, because that dressing room can be an evil place, a dressing room. It really can, when you think about coming through the initiation ceremonies that you go through and the fact that the peer pressure and the sort of vulnerability that you have. You're talking about a 16-year-old just coming out of school, going into a professional football club of ego-driven, dominant male characters. And the way in which Jake spoke was absolutely incredible. In any circumstance, by the way, to see any 17-year-old speak like that on the television is absolutely incredible. But to see them speak about this particular subject, or see him speak about this particular subject, absolutely wonderful what we've just witnessed, really. I mean, we've just seen that interview come through 20 minutes ago, and I was, I'd say, absolutely astonished at how mature and composed he was all the way through it.
Jamie referenced the manager, but it sounds like the captain has been really supportive. The other players as well have really almost taken Jake under their wing a little bit.
Yeah, and what choice have we got, Dave, really? You think about it now, this should be normal. This should be something that's really... doesn't make... We want this in 10, 15 years. In 2022, we see this as obviously a huge announcement, and we see it as a big day and a day of great importance. But in 10 years, success of this will be that actually that it's seen as being normal, it's seen as being basically something that's integrated into a feeling, and a feeling that basically players do accept that, it's life, it's what we are in society. I think Jake himself said that, he would have announced it by now if it wasn't a football player. It's football that's holding... Jake back. It's not actually Jake himself. He was incredibly honest about the fact that, he first had these feelings when he was 5 and 6, and these feelings have developed over a long period of time. He's never felt comfortable speaking about them until now because of football. That's not right. We've created that in terms of the wider football community. The changing room, the sort of how we view the game, maybe the sort of male dominance of it. But I say I think it's a day of great importance for football, and you know, I take. It must take unbelievable courage for Jake to what he did.
Absolutely, I'm sure it's something we'll be talking about a great deal more moving forward.